And then it's an awakening because our thought, oh, it's wrong, it's wrong. It's got to be wrong if you think it is wrong. But if you take it on playful, and that's what I do,
right,
then there is no thought. I make it ridiculous, this hostile force, this so negative, overwhelming, cold, primordially getting to us, that it is dangerous and all. I make it a laughing joke, and then you see everybody having fun. That's only in the night when they came to me after fatiguing travel from wherever they come. From Hawaii to Australia, to New Zealand, to Japan, to Russia, they all come there. And it's fatiguing traveling. They feel renewed and they sleep like babies. That is the night number one. And in the morning, they are excited. But they also like, oh, what happened? I don't know. Maybe I cannot believe what happened. Then I, boom, into the breathing. And then you hear the biggest yelling of releasing trauma. And I go to the ancestors and everything, because I know how to open up the closed up proteins because of traumatic experiences.
What do you mean that you go to the ancestors? What do you mean by that?
That is anything that is genetically encrypted in our gene expressions and closed up is because of a genetical past.
Okay, so why do you specifically refer to that as the ancestors? What made you think that?
Because we are the ancestors within our DNA. We carry every information of our ancestry, like 13, like possibly 100. Yeah. As long as it is not solved, it's still within us.
Okay,
that is the mechanism.
I've just written a new book, and it's not out till March. There's a section in there. There's an old mythological idea that the hero has to rescue his sleeping father from the abyss, from a terrible monster. And yes, I construed that in the book as the ability to awaken sleeping ancestral forces, likely coded genetically, as a consequence of voluntary exposure to stress.
Yes. There we come together, Jordan. This is what I do right now in San Francisco, showing through bringing back the primordial condition of the cell, together with the cold shock, heat shock proteins. What happens when you do
it practically?
That, yes.
Yes.
You do this. If you go regularly in the cold, then the activation of those cold shock proteins, they're also heat shock, because it's the same thing. It's through the hypothalamus, and it works. Boom. Right? We get connection, and then suddenly you bring a protective shield around the cell. What happens inside? The war is over, guys. We can go into repair. And then you neurosignaling. We talked about neurosignaling. I was able to bring a cold water on the skin temperature not going down. That is.
And how long can you do that for? How long can you maintain
it? As long as it takes. As long as it takes. That is the power of our mind, intention. It's a real undiscovered area of psychiatry, which I have discovered together with Professor Vaibhav Divakar and Professor Otto Muzik in Detroit.
Do you have to eat more because of that?
No, absolutely not. It's the power of your intention. Your intention is this is a general universal principle of our mind, only not awakened. It was not discovered. The first time somebody ran the 4 miles in a certain incredible time, year later, 20 could do it. That's in the mind. So what we find is if we expose it to people, then they change their paradigm. And the paradigm, this is what they say, Wim Hof has found the secret of placebo. Placebo is no longer just over there. It's now a controllable healing force whenever you need it. It's the top-down regulated interoception. It's within our will. That's the new science. And that brings us back to the ancestry. So first, we make the cell protected by a shield, activating the cold shock, heat shock proteins. Then inside the cell, you get logically a signal, hey, there is no war anymore. Energy is not needed to get inflammation out of here or to deal with inflammation or oxidative stress. Oh, let's go into the close-up proteins of our ancestry. We can work it out now because now it's silent, now it's nice, now we got the energy pieces here. This is the principle, a general principle of nature. When you are wounded, you retract. But if you are in war, you can even keep on shooting with a lack of shot. That's adrenaline, cortisol. That mode keeps on going. That's our society. That is also wrong. There is no peace. There is no ability to retract no more. Work needs to be done daily. How do you say whatever. Work needs to be done all the time. Production.
So your people in Poland, the first day you have them go outside in the cold for a long period of time with no shoes on, for example, and they wake up the next day and you introduce them to the breathing. If someone's doing this at home, like if I wanted to start this tomorrow, I'd get up and have a cold shower, and I would do that voluntarily as facing the stress. Okay, and then how would I do the breathing? Would I do that after the shower? Would I do that in the afternoon? When would I do that?
You do it whenever you are completely rested, like relaxed. Because the breathing will open up your physiology deeply. If you go into deep stress while being kind of okay, that is the breathing. The breathing exercises is a workout because the vascular system is more activated than somebody who's running. You see? Lately, I did a research with paralyzed people. Amazing.
I can't do it when I'm relaxed because I'm never relaxed.
Oh, so, but you can. You can.
Maybe at night.
You will directly intervene into the neurological anxiety going on. Whatever is on the loose, you will be able to create a extra altered current within electrical current, the nervous system, I mean.
So does it not matter when I do it then? Like I could do it?
No, it does not matter.
I mean, I was able to do it with you.
Anti-stomach. If you need me, I'm there or anytime. You can call me. We have a Zoom and we do it. But you don't need me. I like to talk with you because you got a great experience in words and a contemplation and a lot of expertise. And I think we coincide a lot, like just now, about the stress, the ancestry, and
that took me like 15 years to figure out because I've read all these stories. They're ancient stories that first, the core element of the hero's journey, which is the proper journey through life, is voluntary confrontation with what is unknown and terrifying. That's the human way. And one of the consequences of that is the rescuing of the dead father or the hurt father or the sleeping father. It's a fundamental element of Egyptian mythology, for example, ancient Egyptian mythology. And it's part of the idea of the dying and resurrecting God. It's entangled up in that as well. And it wasn't until recently that I figured out that the consequence of voluntarily facing stress is the awakening of abilities within you that are part of our ancestral heritage. And so that is how you become a living avatar of the great heroes of the past. But it never occurred to me that you could find high stressors of a say physical type so close at hand. I never really put that together. The idea that cold stress, for example, would be sufficient to start that process. What about heat stress? I found saunas were actually useful for me.
Fasting. What about fasting? Yeah, not starving. But
all those work great. Fasting is hormesis. Heat stress is hormesis. the cold stress. But the breathing, really, these breathing techniques, let me compare. It has been compared in brain scan studies of people doing 4 hours of mindfulness a day for years. They could not get as deep as a person practicing this type of breathing exercises, go into the depth of the brain. They could not get into the depth of the brain even after years, 4 hours of mindfulness a day. And these, what we did, we went deeper inside the brain than those people. So this,
and that's in 30 breaths.
Yes, this exercise, which began with going into the cold, it made me, that's the first thing. Then you learn that through prolonged deep breathing, you learn to control the biochemistry inside, to shake off the stressor, which is the cold, and thus prolong time in cold water. You find it out, and it's all based on experience and sensation, and it works. Okay, then I began to disconnect the breathing from the cold. Cold, I still was doing, etc. But then I did these breathing exercises at home, and they blew my mind. Anything that I had read in all the ancient scriptures, I saw plenty, all, and deeper. And now I found that these breathing exercises are able to go where our paradigm of medical science thought of is impossible. And I'm showing this. Now, I know
you are practicing conscious control over a semi-unconscious function when you're exerting control over your breathing. And breathing is strange because it does occur unconsciously, but we can also modify it consciously. So it's right at the, what would you say, the border between consciousness and unconsciousness.
Ah, interesting. Yes, a good point. It's a good point of view.
See, we modulate our breathing voluntarily all the time when we're speaking, and so it's also associated with the voice.
Amazing. Yes, that is so. And then we saw in the brain scans in Germany, in Hanover, one of the best 2 brain scans of the world, doing this breathing. Normally, we have a willful control over 16% of our neural activity in our brain. And now they saw 100% neural activation within the brain, done consciously because we were doing the breathing exercises.